Hi, welcome back to this week's SEL Spotlight. I want you to grab something quickly, grab something to write on, either a piece of paper and a pen or pencil, or open up a doc on your computer for you to begin to type on. I'm going to read a paragraph to you, and I want you to jot down how many decisions you've hypothetically made before leaving your house at any given point. Are you ready? All right, here we go. Your alarm went off this morning and you pushed the snooze button. 10 minutes later, you got out of bed and you took a shower. You then brushed your teeth. For breakfast, you had a glass of juice and a bowl of cereal with bananas. You put on an outfit of clothes and black shoes. You changed your shoes before leaving the house because you wanted to wear a different pair instead. How many decisions did you count? I'm going to read the paragraph to you once more, except this time I'm going to actually help you out here and mark the decisions one by one as I read it. So your alarm went off this morning and you pushed the snooze button. That's number 1. 10 minutes later, you got out of bed. That's number 2. And you took a shower. That's number 3. You then brushed your teeth. That's number 4. For breakfast, you had a glass of juice. That's number 5. And a bowl of cereal. Number 6. With bananas. Number 7. You put on an outfit of clothes. That's number 8. And black shoes. That's number 9. You changed your shoes. That's number 10. Before leaving the house because you wanted to wear a different pair instead. I stopped clicking, huh? Well, there you have it. Amazing, right? At least 10 decisions before leaving the house on any given morning or any given day. And some would even argue that you also made the decision to leave the house, which is number 11, I guess. So some of the decisions made here were actually small and you didn't think much about them. And some were more important and maybe took a little bit more thought, like maybe choosing the outfit of clothes maybe required a little bit more thought because you had to figure, well, is it cold? Is it hot? You know, what the weather was like, where you were going to be going probably influenced the type of shoes that you were going to wear. So as you may have guessed, today we are looking at the types of decisions that you make. We're going to play a little game and I'm going to ask you a series of questions to which you have to respond to as soon as possible. I'm not going to be repeating the questions, so it's important to answer as quickly as possible. Ready? Listen carefully. Here we go. On which wrist would you wear a watch or a bracelet? Did you choose to wear white, black, or colored socks today? What will you do 3 hours from now? If you were going to see a movie tonight, what movie would you see? You have to finish reading a book by next Monday. When will you do it? If you found money outside of your home, would you keep it and not tell anyone, or would you try to find out who dropped it? Was it hard to answer some of those questions? Maybe some were harder than others to answer. Which ones were easier to answer and which ones were harder? If you answered that the first 2 were easier, I would agree. And if you answered that the last 2 were hardest, I would also agree. Why did the last 2 seem more difficult to answer? That had to do with the money and the reading the book. Well, some decisions are fairly easy to make because they involve personal preferences. So like the color of the socks that you're wearing today, for example, would be a personal preference, and they have no real consequences. These types of decisions are not really worth worrying much about. On the other hand, other decisions are harder to make because they have certain consequences that come with making them. So what does this word consequences mean to you? I want you to pause the video and share your responses in the video comments below. And you're going to share with us what the word consequences means to you. Perhaps in your video comments you included some definitions of simply putting this word consequences, which you see here: the result or outcome of an action, what happens because of something else. The technical definition, however, is something produced by a cause or necessarily following from a set of conditions. I kind of like the simply put versions because they're easier to understand. And if we really look at this, basically it's an action that leads to something happening, the consequence. Imagine, in a real life scenario that you attend additional support sessions with your teacher to help with, like a grade that you're struggling in or a class that you're struggling in. What might the consequences of skipping this additional help be? Well, hopefully you can see with that example that most decisions have both positive and negative consequences. Missing or skipping a support session would likely lead to a negative consequence, right? Because you don't understand the information, you don't do as well on the quizzes or the exams. And that's why some decisions are more difficult than others to make. In fact, decisions can have really complicated consequences oftentimes, and they require more time to be thought through. You are going to make many, 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 many decisions every day. As we saw just before leaving the house, 10, 11 decisions, right? And some are going to be bigger than others, but it's important to think about how we make some of those decisions. So in addition to looking at the consequences that these decisions carry, you also will need to look at other factors that influence your decisions. I'm going to take you back down looking at, factors that influence or affect the decisions that you make. Can you think of any? Well, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you get started with some of the things or people that influence your decisions. We have parents, we have friends, school, laws, television, social media. All of these things have an influence on your decisions, and some have a stronger influence than others. All right, so going down memory lane a little bit, we think back to one of the spotlights that we did on developing personal power. Hopefully you remember. And what we discussed there, the big takeaway was that personal power lies in the choices that you make. Do you remember who is responsible for the choices that you make? Well, while there are many factors that influence your decisions, ultimately the power to decide rests in your hands. So you have the power to make different decisions for different reasons. And the important thing is that you understand why you make the decisions you make so that you can be sure to make the ones you want. And when making decisions, remember to think of your goals, your values, strengths, skills, likes, and dislikes. And then lastly, you always have the power to decide, even when the decision is difficult. Is it sometimes hard to make certain decisions? Yes, it is. Right? And what you may have found is that sometimes it's easier to make decisions for others than for yourself, right? So you would not be the only one if you find that it's easier to make those decisions for other people. But it's going to be really important to analyze a few things about yourself, what you value, and that's really going to help in making those difficult decisions. Some of the key points that I want to make sure that you walk away with today are the following. I clicked on that. The importance of a decision is determined by the consequences. Many factors may influence your decisions, but you are the one who makes them, and you have the power to make decisions. So make the ones that are right for you. I do want to thank you for joining us for this week's SEL Spotlight. This is Mrs. Gonzalez.